Victory was in the air on the bridge as officers planned a celebratory toast. Suddenly, a girl with long bluish-purple hair appeared, sitting in the aide seat. Dressed in a formal military uniform, she seemed out of place, yet confident. Farragut, realizing his lapse in vigilance, demanded to know who she was. The girl, unfazed by his gun, introduced herself as Ultima, a name given by Sir Rimuru. Farragut was skeptical, having never heard of her, but she claimed to be one of the most powerful beings, known as Violet, the original purple. Then she nonchalantly expressed her intention to ask questions before they all die, while smiling sweetly. Farragut felt an overwhelming pressure from her presence, akin to facing a high-ranked imperial guardian, leaving him bewildered and slightly afraid. Farragut was skeptical of his own instincts, but recognized the gravity of the situation. Ultima, having infiltrated the airship alone, signaled a major emergency. He deduced her objective, rescuing Veldora, who still held captive outside the observation window. Ultima was undoubtedly a top-level monster, possibly a high-ranking archdemon. Her human-like appearance belied an overwhelmingly evil aura, something Farragut's master Ghidorah had researched extensively. Farragut aimed his gun at her, correctly identifying her as a demon. Confident in his assessment, Farragut believed they could neutralize her by cutting off her magic. He secretly ordered his subordinates to point their magic canceller at the ship's interior, disabling all magic, including their own weapons and magicians, but rendering Ultima powerless. Farragut kept Ultima engaged in conversation to distract her. He assumed she was there to rescue Veldora, but Ultima corrected him, claiming to serve Sir Rimuru. Farragut dismissed this, convinced she was there for Veldora. Suddenly something felt amiss. He couldn't recall any briefing suggesting Veldora had subordinates, making Ultima's presence all the more baffling. He assumed she was there to rescue Veldora, despite her insisting she was there to ask questions. Farragut began to feel uneasy, suspecting he was missing something important. When Ultima smiled and asked about controlling the ship and the Empire's military forces, Farragut felt disrespected and suspicious. He saw a signal indicating everything was ready and felt assured of their victory. He dismissed her requests and instead aimed to trap her. Farragut pulled the trigger of his Colt Government 1911, an antique semi-automatic pistol, signaling the start of battle. The magic cancellors activated across the airship. While the Colt's bullet was more of a distraction, the real threat was the magic cancellors. As an incarnated demon, Ultima would be vulnerable without her magic. Farragut, understanding the gravity of the situation, aimed to neutralize Ultima. He fired his Colt Government 1911, but Ultima effortlessly caught the bullets, dropping them to the floor without harm. Surprised but undeterred, Farragut drew his magic saber, which retained its powers despite the magic cancellors. Confident in his skills, he believed he could destroy Ultima's physical form, making her unable to withstand the magic cancellors. As tension filled the air, Farragut sneered at Ultima, taunting her about the blocked magic. Ultima, unfazed, responded with a puzzled expression. Farragut, assuming she was bluffing, initiated his attack with a masterful stab aimed at her heart. However, the attack missed. Ultima had moved from her seat to behind him in an instant. Farragut's thrust went through the chair, leaving him shocked and facing an unbelievable truth about Ultima's abilities. Ultima, with an innocent smile, declared she would get the answers she wanted, one way or another. She began her gruesome task, casually beheading officers and soldiers on the bridge, creating a scene of chaos and terror. Farragut, panicking, ordered the magic canceller to be turned up to maximum and for other ships to focus on their flagship. Ultima, seemingly unfazed, questioned the effectiveness of the magic canceller on her. She explained that, as a high-ranking demon, her magic worked naturally, like breathing. Demonstrating her point, Ultima disappeared and reappeared, effortlessly killing more officers without any visible effects from the magic canceller. She explained that her speed and abilities defied the laws of physics, showcasing her terrifying power with ease. Farragut, realizing the futility of his efforts, was left in shock and fear as Ultima continued her merciless actions. Faragha, now understanding the gravity of Ultima's power, realized his common sense was failing him. Despite summoning Ifrit with the combined strength of 50 magicians, he still felt an overwhelming sense of fear. Ultima, unfazed, remained confident and declared she would bring him nothing but despair. Faragha's experience and knowledge of magic told him that an archdemon should be within his capability to handle, especially with the magic canceller in place. However, Ultima's extraordinary abilities defied all his expectations. Her strength and composure made him question everything he knew about demons. The bullets from his Colt were useless, and his magic saber seemed inadequate. This Ifrit was many times stronger than typical high-level spirits, a powerful spirit, and Faragha believed it could defeat any archdemon. However, Ultima's calm and confident demeanor suggested otherwise. As Ifrit materialized, the bridge was trashed, signaling the beginning of what Faragha thought would be his triumph. Despite his powerful summoning, Faragha couldn't shake the growing unease. Ultima's casual dismissal of Ifrit, referring to it as a small fry, shattered his confidence. Her presence was overwhelming, and her threat of bringing despair was all too real. For the first time, Faragha felt true fear, realizing that his final move might not be enough to save him from Ultima's wrath. As Ultima's chilling words echoed in his mind, Faragha understood that he was facing a force far beyond his comprehension and capability. The bridge, once a symbol of his control and power, now felt like a trap, with Ultima effortlessly dismantling his defenses and instilling terror in his heart. Faragha watched in disbelief as Ifrit, the embodiment of absolute power, froze and shattered into pieces from Ultima's elemental magic, Cositus. Panic spread among the bridge crew as they realized the living personification of death stood before them. Ultima, with a cheery voice, announced it was time for questions. Minutes later, Ultima had extracted all the information she needed from the survivors, using her ability to read brainwaves. Delighted with her findings, she turned to Faragha, the last survivor. With a malevolent smile, she conjured a jet-black flame, an abyss core, much larger and more dangerous than anything Faragha had ever seen. Ultima casually tossed the abyss core into the air and walked away, leaving Faragha stunned and facing an insurmountable threat. The question of Ultima's true nature no longer mattered to Faragha. Realizing he couldn't control the abyss core, he understood he was at the end of his life. The dark fire expanded, mocking his efforts, engulfing the flagship, and transforming into a nuclear flame, the ultimate destructive magic. Faragha embraced the flames, his body and soul consumed by the intense heat. The destructive nuclear flame obliterated the flying combat corps led by Faragha. The superheated flames and shock waves caused massive damage, vaporizing the flagship and scattering the surrounding ships. The once proud Imperial military force was completely wiped out, leaving nothing but devastation in its wake. Ultima flew away from the flagship, her interest in Faragha gone. She nodded in satisfaction at the fireball, reflecting on Rimuru's order to go full power, but knowing that more could have endangered Team Hiryu. Despite the aerial catastrophe, Team Hiryu remained unharmed. Concerned about Gabil, Ultima flew to his side, urging him to retreat from the nuclear flame. But Gabil was unfazed by the magic canceller, and he boasted about gaining a new sense, piquing Ultima's interest, but knowing evacuation was the priority. She forcibly removed him from danger. Back on the ground, Ultima interrogated Gabil firmly. She was harsh, knowing that his failure meant her own. Gabil, oblivious, explained his brief genius moment from the enemy's special light beam, wanting to test his endurance against it. Ultima thought of handing him over to Rimuru for a reprimand, but pressed on. Gabil proudly explained that their intrinsic skill, Dragon Body, would become available for longer periods with training. His prolonged transformation during the battle was part of this experiment. Gabil looked around at his squadmates, sneering as he revealed his discovery. Team Hiryu was surprised, as they could only maintain their transformations for about 10 minutes before reverting to their original forms. Excited, They asked if they could learn his secret. Ultima glanced at them coldly, thinking they needed to experience a bit of pain. However, knowing Rimuru would be furious if she harmed them without permission, she decided to remain patient. Gabble attributed his discovery to Ultima, thanking her for giving him the time to think it through. Ultima, not one to turn down a compliment, decided to let Gabble explain. Gabble explained that their intrinsic skill, Dragon Body, could be fully controlled. This skill strengthened the user's body by surging with magicules, enhancing defense and providing near-instant recovery from injuries. While casting magic was off the table, they could still use breath and other ability-based skills. As long as they maintained their consciousness, this skill provided enhanced strength with minimal downside. The enemy's attack disrupted the movement of magicules, enhancing his powers. Ultima was surprised, realizing this unexpected side effect of the magic canceller. Gabil had magicule energy equivalent to when Clayman awoke for the last time, and the disruption could potentially boost his power even further. However, Gabil admitted he couldn't handle the excess power well. By focusing on the rampant magicules, he gained control over them. Ultima, seeing the potential in training Gabil's force, decided this could make her useful to Rimuru. She agreed to discuss it later, emphasizing the need to support the goblins. Grateful for the useful information, Ultima overlooked Gabil's behavior. They prepared to provide aid, with Ultima hinting at re-education for those who didn't meet their quota. Gabil nodded happily, misunderstanding the situation, while Ultima gave him an adorable smile. Team Hiryu, blissfully unaware of her true intentions, went back to the battlefield.